Herschel. Thank you to the Board of Governors. This is such an exciting moment. We get to celebrate our rich, rich legacy, acknowledge the accomplishments of the pioneers in pediatric surgery, while at the same time, generate ideas and become excited about our future. Dr. Herschel asked me to talk a bit about our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. The backbone of that really has been us trying to understand how implicit bias, cultural competence, and inclusion may be perpetuated throughout the organization. Have you guys ever seen any of the case stories in medicine about implicit bias? You know, the ones like this one. A 17-year-old male often presents to the emergency department with headaches. He's deemed a frequent flyer. The emergency room doctors and the nurses finally admit him. Dr. Courtney goes up and sees him on the wards. Dr. Courtney says, you know, something about him just didn't seem right. I didn't know exactly what it was. I think it was his tattoos. I think it was his demeanor. As Dr. Courtney was transporting the patient down to the CT scanner, the patient herniates and dies. Looking back, he was diagnosed with a rare form of meningitis. His headaches were real. This had a lasting impact on Dr. Courtney. What about this one? This one goes like this. I was making rounds in the surgical intensive care unit. I go by the bedside of a patient that had just had an exploratory laparotomy. The mother comes to the bedside, very worried. I try and engage her in our conversation. I say, your baby is so beautiful. Immediately, she backs away from the crib. I wondered what I had said wrong. I then shortly realized that the patient was of Mexican descent. And I remembered what I had learned about the Mexican culture and mal de ojo, evil eyes. I then placed my hand on the baby's forehead. The mother looked at me and then smiled. She didn't say anything, but I could tell that she was grateful that I had prevented mal de ojo. An all-white male law firm with almost all white clients hires a Hispanic female attorney to bring in Hispanic clients. The new attorney introduces new and bright ideas about going out into the community and building a diverse clientele. Senior managers were open to those ideas and pursued them with great success. More women of color were hired. They too brought fresh ideas. The firm now pursues cases that it previously thought only an all-white male legal staff would not have thought relevant. My brothers and sisters of APSA, the business case for diversity is now overwhelming. We live in a complex, interconnected world where diversity is shaped by globalization, technological advances. It forms the fabric of modern society. Despite and notwithstanding our interconnectivity, there is growing polarization, both physical and digital. This is fueled by identity politics and resurgence of nationalist ideals. Not surprisingly, our workplace tends to mirror the socio-cultural dynamics at play in our lives outside of work. Our differences are really an asset for our excellence. There is good evidence now that the more diverse we are, the more excellent we are, the more innovative we are, the more creative our teams are, the more empathetic the care is that we provide. And this really goes beyond gender and race and ethnicity. What this really is about is it's about cognitive diversity and diversity in education and socioeconomic upbringing and sexual orientation and culture and disability. The benefits of diversity go well beyond the optics. There's lots of stern data on this. I just put this example here. This is the work of Scott Page. And what Scott Page has done is that he's looked from a mathematical standpoint the benefit of diversity, and he calls it the diversity bonus. Diverse teams outperform teams, and we know that teams outperform individuals. Diverse teams are more profitable, have stronger governance, have better problem solving. Organizations are more resilient and effective. What you really want is people to solve problems in diverse ways, To have a creative team, you want people with different types of ideas. This is going to be fun. Can all the millennials in the room stand up? If you identify yourself as a millennial, that means if you're in high school, middle school, medical school, residency, fellowship, if you're 1, 2, or 3 years out of being an attending, please stand. And if you are people like my partner, Samir Gadapelli, you can stand too. He's old, but he thinks he's a millennium. This is our future. And when I tell you that these millennials inspire me every day, they move differently. They see the world differently. By 2025, 75% of the global workforce will be run by these people that's standing in this room. You guys can sit now. And I will say that our future is safe with them. They value diversity. They value experiences and backgrounds. They demand individual perspectives. They look for a culture of inclusion. They're looking for diversity and inclusion when sizing up employers. They believe organizations that are more inclusive are more innovative. So how diverse is APSA? Well, the exciting thing is that we don't really know. This is all we know. These plain demographics. And we got this just a couple months ago through a practice survey. So a group of us, this is our team, over the last 8 months, we've had monthly, sometimes bi-monthly phone calls. We are trying to understand what can we do to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion within APSA in a way that is meaningful to all of our members. We knew the first thing we needed to do was establish a common vision. So this is the mission and vision that we've scrutinized word by word. And what we have said so far is that diversity, equity, and inclusion are core values for APSA that drive excellence and innovation in clinical care, research, education, advocacy, and leadership. We will broaden organizational representation across cultural, demographic, cognitive, and practice style domains. Our environment will advance pediatric surgeons to attain their greatest potential, work in partnership to eliminate health inequities, and provide the highest quality of pediatric surgical care to all. So how do we do that? There's no textbook for that, I can tell you, because I looked. But what we've done is for APSA 5.0, I think it really comes down to leveraging our differences and how can we best do that within the organization. So we're proposing that we do these 5 things. We leverage our differences, we learn more, we lower implicit bias and the influence of implicit bias throughout the organization. The language that we use matters, and level the pipeline. We hope to do that by educational activities, by raising consciousness at things like our national meeting and through our journal, through innovation and research. So how we learn more? In about 2 weeks, you'll receive a survey. It's going to be a demographic survey. We hope to dig deeper, learn more about our membership, beyond gender, beyond race. What is the membership all about? What are those socioeconomic differences, ability, practice styles? We want to determine the status quo of APSA. We're going to determine current culture perceptions. This data will really set the tone and inform our foundational efforts. Implicit bias, I don't have to tell this group, influences just about every interaction that we have. This report from the Institute of Medicine looked at racial and ethnic minorities and their interactions between physicians and patients. Even controlling for access, insurance, and finances, racial and ethnic minorities receive worse health care. This is just one example of how implicit bias amongst medical professionals really plays a major role in how we take care of our patients. Language matters. I didn't know this, and I've been learning this over the last several months, but first-person plural pronouns like we, ours, and us. Physicians that are higher in implicit bias use these pronouns more. Studies of Black patients show that when we use those words, we're trusted less, we build less confidence, and we're rated as poor quality of care. Dr. Barksdale challenged us to even understand more how we are using the word diversity. Even that word, it has now become somewhat taboo. There's a diversity effort almost everywhere we look, and it means different things to all of us. So should we be, as an organization, using words like representation more, or inclusion more, or differences? And then finally, level and load the pipeline. How do we do that? How do we get residents and medical students involved and engaged from underrepresented groups? How do we decrease the influence of implicit bias in our selection and our match process? How do we mentor and sponsor underrepresented groups? The APSA Board of Governors, thank you, thank you, thank you. They have challenged us to drive our field forward by adding inclusion, representation, participation for all as the foundation of who we are and what we do, to use our collective strength to make APSA more equitable and open. And so we have challenged ourselves to learn more, to lower implicit bias, language matters, and to level the pipeline. Now, here's a little fun thing for cultural competence. For those of y'all that have been through a Black church, we want to make sure you remember this. So turn to your neighbor, say, neighbor, come on, neighbor, come on now, neighbor. Learn more. Lower implicit bias. Language matters. Level the pipeline. I'm going to close here. I love this poem. Yeah! I love this poem. It's Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. On behalf of the inaugural APSA Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, Dr. Hannah Alamayu, Dr. Kanika Bowen-Jallow, Dr. Monica Lopez, Dr. Sarah Mansfield, Dr. Catherine Martin, Dr. Colin Martin, Dr. Paul Menifee, Dr. Mito Mirza, Dr. Zachary Morrison, Dr. Robert Obermeyer, Dr. Mary Santos, Dr. Ayla Stanford, Dr. Sir France Tran, and Dr. Max Langham. Thank you for allowing us at the table. All right.